us to do this next part of our presentation, and this is debts and solutions, because most people understand that debt is a big deal, but they don't understand how to eliminate it in the most effective way, and they don't usually see how it's affecting their life every single day. So, dealing with the debt issue, we have my partner, Miss Ashley Harden, is going to do the first part of this presentation, and then I will close it at the end. So, with that, Patrick, I don't know if you can do this, but would you want to give uh, Ashley control or remote control so that she can operate the slides?
Or I can just say next if it's gonna mess up the recording, whatever's easiest.
Well, I don't know if Patrick is even here anymore.
Uh-oh. Well, he's the
And,
host, so.
and he's the host. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
We were just wondering, Patrick, in case you do have to step away, if it's easier to make me the host or if it's going to mess up the recording, then I can just say next when it's time to go to the next slide. I don't know what's easier.
Oh, you guys should be able to run the slides without me.
Well, I just tried it and it wouldn't let me go to the next slide.
Yeah, same here.
That's yeah. You should be able to do the slides independent of me. So.
Okay. Well,
yeah, because I can't access it because I don't have the slides up at all.
Well, it just said that the host has disabled screen sharing. Host disabled.
Right, try it now.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect.
Go ahead, Ashley.
All right, perfect. Welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you are greeting us from. Thank you for attending. We'd like to first thank the NAACP for allowing us to have this moment with you all. Thank you so much, as we strongly believe that economic empowerment is definitely needed, wanted, and the knowledge should be growing, hopefully. So today we are going to talk about the myth, taking the myth out of becoming debt free. So what we're going to talk about with being debt free today is, or one thing that I really want you guys to think about is, would you guys agree that debt is the enemy of wealth?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So just kind of let that sink in. Debt is the enemy of wealth. Think about if you agree with that, and B, if you do agree, just kind of think about the concept that if you're constantly giving your money out to someone else, then how are you able to keep your money for yourself? And there are a lot of people that are like, oh, money's not everything. Money's the root of all evil, that sort of thing. Money's the root of all evil if you have emergencies that come up and you have no way of paying them, right? And another side is, if you don't like it, you can give it to me. That's okay. I'll spend it for you. But so let's think about taking the myth out of what is being debt free, because I think in our society we're so accustomed to, yeah, it's normal to have debt. Yeah, I have student loans, car loans, mortgages, everything else, right? Credit card debt. So as we can see, debt's a serious problem today. And I love this first bullet point because it says just 40% of Americans could pay an unexpected $1,000 expense. So just 40% of Americans. Think about that. And hopefully those that are listening today, you're one of those in that 40%. You're part of that statistic where if an emergency happened tomorrow, then you are able to cover that $1,000 expense. But I want you to also think about if any of your friends, your family, anyone in your community, if you are the person that people call when an emergency happens and ask, hey, can I borrow some money? I just had this happen. So if you're in that spot, great. I mean, if you're able to cover that expense, awesome. But I also want you to kind of think about, keep on the back burner anyone that you know where this information might be helpful and useful to them. So just kind of think about that. So let's look at the next bullet point. U.S. households with debt carry an average credit card balance of $6,200. So that's just credit cards. Just credit cards. That's not even thinking about student loans. That's not even talking about car notes. That's not talking about mortgages. That's just straight credit cards. And do you guys think that, this stat was taken from just this month last year, February 2020. But if you guys remember kind of the series of events, February was right before the pandemic hit. Everything kind of went haywire around March and April. So how do you think this credit card balance is doing for most people now?
A lot higher.
A lot higher, right? Probably skyrocketed. And then the last bullet point. So there were 757,000 personal and business bankruptcies nationwide in 2019, right? So just kind of thinking about, again, where are you sitting right now with your debt? And the funny thing about people is that most people are like, oh, if I can make my debt payment, if I can make my payments, then I'm not in debt. But again, going back to the very first statement of, if you're still making payments on something, if you are essentially giving your money to someone else, so you're making a payment on something, why not keep that money for yourself, right? Because again, that's the enemy of wealth. So if you're saying, oh, I can make my payments, I'm fine, I'm not in debt, well, you're still giving your money out to someone else. So would you want to keep giving your money to someone else, or do you want to keep it for you and your family, right? So that's what we're going to focus on today. So let's look at the next slide. Let's see, do I have access? There we go.
I just did.
So thank you. So is your debt so high that you can't even save it? So let's think about this. So do you use credit cards to pay your bills? And I get it. Some people do, because you might want to get the miles on on whatever credit cards you have, that sort of thing. But the key to that statement is, are you able to pay those credit cards off once you've paid those bills? So not just do you use credit cards to pay your bills, but are you paying those credit cards off once you've paid those bills, right? Carrying a revolving balance each month. So is it one of those things where you're only paying the minimum balance? Where can you pay just a little bit more so that way you can get out of debt faster, right? Because we talked about, I think it was last week when we went through, or the very first week when we very first started, when we were talking about interest rates, and we went through the rule of 72, right? Because banks are charging us how much interest on our credit cards? Like 15% and higher, but we're only getting, 0.01, 0.05% as saving in our savings account. So if you're only paying like the minimum balance of your credit card every month, but you have this high interest rate, again, let's go back to think about who's winning, right? Definitely the banks, because you still have the balance on that card, right? Let's look at the third bullet. Occasionally or frequently missing a payment on your mortgage, credit card, or other monthly bill. So it's just like, oh, that's a small little, especially right now in Arizona, we're not really using our AC, so our electricity bill may not be that high. So it's like, oh, that bill's not that high, so I don't need to pay this month. I'll wait till next month. But again, thinking about how people are living right now with the pandemic, right? Majority of people are kind of struggling on just all their bills. So if you're just missing one payment on one bill, how does that actually affect, and it's kind of like that snowball effect, but in the negative way, on how it in fact impacts everything else, right? And then the last bullet point, feeling like you'll never get out of debt, right? You're just drowning in debt. Well, there is a possibility, and there are different strategies that you can use to get out of debt. So let's look at the debt cycle versus the cash cycle. So for the debt cycle, your finances control you. So you might be outspending your income. Maybe you are, so outspending your income is looking at and relying on those credit cards, right? Because essentially using credit cards is you're borrowing money from the banks until you can pay it back. Borrowing to maintain a lifestyle. So again, are you constantly being asked, hey, can I borrow this, borrow that? So let me throw this scenario out there. Has anyone ever been asked by someone, hey, can I borrow 50 bucks, 20 bucks, whatever, insert whatever amount here, right? But then the very next day, let's say it's for like a car, something to replace their car, right? And then on the very next day, you look on their social media, or you see that they just went and like bought some shoes, or was going out and had this nice dinner, whatever. You're like, wait, you just asked me for money. Like, you, what, how are you going on this trip? Right? So that's that kind of borrowing money to maintain this lifestyle, right? Paying off one debt, but accruing something else. So as soon as you pay one card off, then you go open up another credit card, right? So let's look at now the cash cycle, where you control your own finances. So you're debt free. And again, debt free is you're not paying any money to anyone else. So that's mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit cards, all that stuff. So literally debt free. And yes, we can argue, but this will be a conversation for a different day. Like there is some good debt versus bad debt, right? So if you think of a mortgage, you can essentially have that, but use it as like rental property, different things like that. So, but ultimately but for today's conversation, we just wanted to talk about just the blanket term of debt. Okay. So stick with me with that. So looking at debt free is actually possible no matter what level you are. And again, that back to the previous slide of some people think that they're drowning in debt. So no matter how deep you are, being debt free is possible. And there's many different benefits to being debt free. So you can save money on interest by paying cash. You can regain control of your family budget. Like, I don't know if you guys have, like, blink twice if you've ever done a budget sheet, right? And it's funny where a lot of times what people I talk to, they're like, yeah, I know how much I have coming in and I know how much I'm paying and all this other stuff. But they actually don't have any idea until you put it down on paper. So no matter how mature you are, whatever your maturity level is, I recommend that you do a budget sheet just for a month, maybe 2 months, and kind of think, well, first, let's do a little activity. So this is an honor system activity. I want you guys to, once we're done with the presentation today, I want you to think about, because March is on Monday, right? So we're getting ready to hit a new month. So I want you to kind of think about, okay, in February, I have this much income. This is what my income is, and this is how much I spend. And I want you to, don't look at actual numbers. I just want you guys to kind of think about this. Again, this is a fun little exercise. And then in March, I want you to do an actual budget sheet and literally write down every single cent that left your bank account, that left your wallet. What did you spend money on, and how much did you have coming in? And just see how close those numbers are. See how close of a match you can get, because you'd be surprised that there's a lot of people that think that they don't have any money. Because last week we talked about savings, right? And I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, I just don't have enough money to save. Well, let's look at those Target runs. I think that was one of the examples I used. We always go to Target to get that one thing, but walk out with 10 different things. And sometimes we even forget to get the one thing that we originally went in there for, right? So just kind of looking at, just keep a list of all your receipts, every single receipt that you have. Keep track of every single penny that left your wallet, and just see what that looks like. What does your budget look like? Does it actually match what you think it is? And just having more money to save, right? We just kind of talked about that. So that's just kind of a recap of all the past sessions that we've had, is just making sure that compound interest is working for you and not against you. Perfect. Next slide, please, Mr. Braun. Awesome. So easy ways to avoid debt. So I think this is kind of funny, kind of an oxymoron, because it says it's easy ways to avoid debt, but identifying needs versus wants, sometimes that's not so easy, because sometimes you need those new pair of shoes and you need that matching handbag to go with those shoes, right? That is a legitimate need. Yes, I know we're in a pandemic, and yes, I know we're not going anywhere, but you need those shoes and that handbag. You do, I promise you. You just kind of want to have the lights on, right? You don't have to pay the electricity bill, right? I'm totally kidding. So definitely identifying what the needs and the wants are, right? Making that distinction. Never purchase anything expensive and have that 24-hour rule. So if you see that handbag or that outfit, and if you want it, you maybe 12 hours later, you don't have to wait the full 24, maybe 12 hours later, you still want it, then yes, go back and get it. Or what I always like to do is, yes, that looks cute on the hanger, but when I actually get it home, am I actually going to wear it, right? So that's another kind of way that little judgment rule that I use. But definitely the 24-hour rule is a good thing to use to figure out, is this a need or a want, right? And because nobody likes those impulse buys or the regret buys and that sort of thing. But so that's another thing too, though. If you do purchase that, keep that receipt, because when you return it, then you can now count that money back into your bank account, right? It's all part of the budgeting. It all circles back to budgeting. Perfect. So just kind of think about that. Some other ways to, we can skip this slide. Go ahead. We don't need to do that.
Oh yeah, we gonna keep that slide in.
So eliminate shopping for a hobby, right? Again, this might fall into that need category, but it depends on the individual. But so looking at taking the amount of the cost of the item that you want to purchase, and you divide it by how much you make an hour. So if an item costs $50 and you make $10 an hour, ask yourself, is this item really worth 5 hours of work? It might be, it might not be. So again, it just kind of depends on what that item is and if you feel it's a need or what, right? Another thing, keeping track of your spending. So like I was just mentioned earlier, keep a receipt of everything that you spend in 1 month, and at the end of the month, and see how much, I want you to look and see how much you actually spent, and then B, do okay, this category goes in the wants, and this category over here. So my Starbucks, the Target runs, that kind of thing, that might fall in the wants category, but obviously grocery shopping, because we need to eat. But even with the grocery shopping, I want you to take a step back, get that fine-tooth comb and go through that, because when you go grocery shopping, do you need the name brand Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, or can you go with the Kroger's Frosted O's or whatever it is, right? So just kind of think about that as well. So again, I'm not trying to take the fun out of anybody's life. I'm just saying, just be more cognizant and conscious of what it is that you're actually spending your money on. Perfect. Next. All right, so let's take a look at compound interest. So again, if you've been with us and attended our sessions before in the past, then you are somewhat familiar with compound interest. And let's see if we can pick on somebody who's been in our meetings in the past. Anyone wants to be a brave soul and give us the definition of the rule of 72? Should we pick on somebody, or does the brave soul want to unmute their mics and try to give a stab at it? Because I know Saul's been to a couple. I know Scott's been to a couple. Any takers? Any takers? Go ahead, Scott. You want to give a stab at it? The rule of 72.
It's just a tool you can use to determine at what interest rate the time it'll take you to double your money.
Okay, good. Yep.
Perfect.
That's it.
Perfect.
That's it. So I know you've been to a couple of our meetings. Do you want to expand on that or add anything to it?
Well, actually, he is correct. But the more you add during that period of time, the more your compound increases. So
Exactly.
don't stop, just keep adding.
Exactly. Yep. So both Scott and Saul are absolutely correct. So again, if you've been to our sessions in the past, we talked about compound interest and just looking at and seeing what is our principal that we have, amount that we have, and how can we add money to that. And then now the principal plus the money we added will have interest. Now that interest, the principal that we have, the money that we added, and that interest will grow interest, and so on and so forth. So how can we show how to have your money really be put to work for you? So at some point, you no longer have to work for money. And I get it. Retirement looks different for everybody, because it's in my DNA that I'm a workaholic. I'm always going to be working. But the difference of my retirement is the day I wake up, it's going to be, I'm going to work because I want to versus because I have to.
Now, does the Rule 72 still work on, like, when you buy shoes, on top of buying shoes?
Of course, especially when you get the red bottoms. Yes.
Yeah, okay, just check it.
Yep, exactly. Right. So let's use this example of compound interest. So let's say you have someone age 30. I know we're all about that, around that age right here on the call. So think about how old you were maybe last year. Maybe you might be 31 right now.
Thank
But
you
let's
for
say
the
you can
compliment.
just, what's that, Saul?
Thank you for the compliment.
Of course, yeah.
I'm way beyond 30.
But
Well, maybe
I can't even remember 30.
maybe you're
I'll
still
hang
30
out
at
with you
heart.
guys. I enjoy hanging out with you.
Right. If your physical age, if your birth certificate says something different, maybe you still act like you're 30, or you're 30 at heart, right?
That's
You're
right.
still a
Right.
kid at heart, right? So
Right.
that's what we're gonna use. So use the age that's in your heart, right? So let's say you have 30-year-old is able to save $200 a month for 37 years, because typically, right, quote unquote, that retirement age is age 67. Side note, retirement is now a number, not necessarily an age. But for this example, we will use this age of 67. We're going to retire. So this 30-year-old is saving $200 a month just at 3% interest. So now let's think about this again. You don't have to say it or put it in the chat, but just think about this. What is the interest rate that most banks are giving? So think about what bank you're giving. I think we did this activity last week. So just kind of think about the savings account, the interest rate that you're getting at the savings account at wherever you bank, whether that's Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, wherever. Just think about where you bank and what is the average savings account that you're getting. Most banks, it's 0.01, 0.05, that sort of thing, right?
Yep.
So let's look at this example. Well, where this 30-year-old is getting 3%, right? So if we're used to this 0.01, 0.05, and we see 3%, we're like, hey, we winning a little bit, right?
Right.
So if they're saving $200 a month just at 3%, at age 67, they're gonna have a whopping $162,000 saved. Now, would you guys agree that $162,000 isn't a lot of money today? I mean, you might be sitting okay. I mean, you might have some pocket change. You might be able to buy 2 pairs of shoes rather than just one. But like, you're doing okay though, right? You're decent. You have a decent lifestyle, especially here in Arizona. If you have 162,000, you're doing okay. But what about if you're on the East Coast?
No.
Not so hot, right? What if you want to go to Hawaii?
No.
Or what if you want to do all these other things, right? So 162,000 at age 67. And then also think about, we're talking, today is February 27, 2021. What do you guys think? How do you guys think our lifestyles are going to be 37 years from now, right? We like to throw around this word inflation, right? So do you think the cost of living is going to be going down or go up?
Go up.
Definitely go up. So again, let's say this 30-year-old saved this money 30 years ago and they're sitting at $162,000 today. Again, not a terrible lifestyle. However, 37 years from now, we might be on the lower end of that lifestyle spectrum, right? Now let's say they took that $200 and like, you know what? I heard about this account over here. Garen and Ashley told me about some account that I could get 6%. So I'm gonna put my money over there. So now at age 67, they have a whopping $327,000 saved. Doing a little bit better. So again, $327,000 today, you're doing okay, especially in Arizona, right? You're sitting kind of nice. But again, 37 years from now, what's life going to look like? So you'll be able to survive a little bit longer than if you had just 162,000, right? But wait, there's more. Then I was talking to Garen, I was talking to Ashley, and I heard about some other accounts where I could get a higher interest. Well, what if I get 9% interest? Well, that's definitely way better than the 0.01 that I was getting at the bank. Well, now at age 67, I'm sitting at $714,000. That 30-year-old might be able to retire a little bit longer, right, than with 714,000 than just 162,000. Right? I love it when people say like their retirement jobs, because again, I will probably have that retirement job, but again, the difference is I will be working because I want to, not because I have to. Think about the last time you went into a Walmart or anywhere and you saw those greeters, and think about the elderly people that you see working, and think about are they working because they want to, or do they have to?
Mm.
So with that being said, I'm gonna now pass it back to my business partner, Mr. Garen Bond, who will talk to us a little bit more about how we can get rid of debt.
So thank you so very much, Ashley. And it looks like my control is not working again.
Uh-oh, maybe I don't have control of anything. So maybe unshare and then share again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that. Let's try that.
See if that works.
See. Yeah. Let's try that. Stop sharing. Start it again. Ashley, you did an excellent job of describing what the problem is and the math that's involved with just the rule of 72. So what I'm going to do is go how and talk about how compound interest works against you. Because you talked about how it works for you, somebody saving, and they're all saving the same amount of money. They just got it in different places. What I'm going to show is how this stuff works against you. Now, it didn't come up when we did it earlier, but Albert Einstein said that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, whether it's working for you or against you. Now, when somebody buys something and they only pay the minimum amount on that they're asking them to pay each month, a portion of the principal plus whatever interest they accrued, if they're not paying more than the interest, it's growing every month the same way. So your debt would be growing instead of your savings growing. So people can't understand how they can be paying on something very small for years and years and years. Now, I'm going to use a $3,000 credit card when somebody has maxed out. They maxed out their credit card. They got all the red bottom shoes that they wanted. And they decide when we make our payments, we got all our shoes, but we only going to make the minimum payments. And a lot of people fall into this category. It would take 10 years to pay off a $3,000 credit card. But the 10 years that it took to pay off, and first of all, by the time you got to the end of the 10 years, those shoes that you bought 10 years ago are not in style anymore. Trust me when I tell you, they may come back around, but it may take more than 10 years. That's $2,000 in interest on a credit card that they only had $3,000 in. So the purchase was $3,000. That's how much they purchased. $2,000 was interest. So those red bottom shoes actually cost them $5,000 and 10 years of credit card payments. Now, that just looks crazy, especially when you consider that if someone took a little bit of time and they figured this out, they could figure out a way to pay it off faster. My favorite way to show people how to pay off debt is this idea, we call it debt stacking. Debt stacking is the most efficient way to pay off all your debts, and it not just takes into account the interest rate, but the amount of debt. Now, a lot of people know about Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey took our concept, but he calls it snowball effect. But he takes the one with the smallest amount of money in it and pay that one off, and then take that money and use it on the next one. We do it a much more efficient way because we want to make sure that we pay off the thing with the highest interest first, because that's the thing that's hurting you most. Now, this is important. When I showed this debt stacking program, you're making consistent payments to all your debts, but you're only using one target debt to pay off faster. You're making the minimum payments on everything else until that target is paid off. Let me show you, and this is also when I'm showing people this, I usually talk about a 50-50 plan. That means their extra money, 50% of it we're going to go towards accelerating debt. The other 50% we're going to put into emergency fund so that they don't accrue new debt, that they got their money working for them. They can still use their credit cards, but I show them how to use their credit cards and then pay it off immediately, so that they're using it for convenience, not as currency. You can rack up them frequent flyer miles without having to pay the interest on those frequent flyer miles. Now, let me give an example here. This is a typical type of example that we have. This person has 3 credit cards and a car loan and a mortgage. Every single month, they're spending out $2,700 every single month paying off their debt. The very top debt is the one that we call the target. So we tell people to pay their debt, target the one that's given the highest interest rate until it's paid off. Once that one is paid off, what we do is we ask them to take the money that they were paying on the target and add it to the next one, which is now the new target. So instead of them paying the same money on the old debt of the credit card of $353, once that's paid off, we're going to add the $220 from their first target to the second one and pay $573. But we're still going to make the minimum payments on everything else. The dollars that's coming out of pocket is still exactly the same. We're not asking people to pay more money out of their pocket. We're telling them to use what they're already doing until the second credit card is paid off. Now, once the second credit card is paid off, we take the money that they were spending on the two and add it to the car loan. Now, the car loan was $551. That's how much they're used to paying. But because we paid off those other two credit cards, they're now going to take that money, put it on the next one. So instead of it being a $551 payment, it's now an $1,124 payment until the car loan is paid off. Once the car loan is paid off, we take the money and add it to the other credit card. Now we're going to pay that credit card off faster. Now, if you notice on the bottom, every one of these, that's still the same total dollar amount that's going out. The difference is how it's allocated until they get down to all they have is their mortgage. Now, the mortgage was $1,293 every month, but if they paid off everything else and they took that money and paid off their mortgage, now they're paying $2,700 a month toward their mortgage until it's paid off. Doing it this way, I have actually helped people show them how to go from 40 and 50 years of debt payments down to like 12 years of debt payments. Who likes the idea of getting out of a mortgage in 5 or 6 years as opposed to 20 and 30 years that people use? Now, I showed the debt stacking thing and actually talked about using credit for different stuff. But understanding this stuff all together, you also want to know what your credit score is, because how much you pay is dependent on your credit score if you have debt. If you have very good credit, you can get, or you're always going to get those 0% offers where they want you to take money from one card to put it on another one. They're going to have lower interest rates when you buy a car, you buy a house. Everything is less, but you really want to understand what your credit score is and how to be in control of it. Now, this next slide is talking about the idea of what kind of consumer are you? Are you the kind of consumer that when you apply for credit, you know you're going to get it? Or are you one of those consumers when you apply for credit, you praying that you don't get it? You hoping that you're going to get it because you don't even understand how this stuff works together. And what interest rate are you going to get? Are you going to get the best interest rate, or are they going to charge you on whatever you buy, like you buying a credit card? And I've worked with people that on their car, they're paying 24, 25% on their car. And they don't think it's a big deal. They say, well, the payment's only $600 a month. Oh, well, on $600 a month, if they had a nicer car, they could buy a lot nicer car if they had better credit. That's important. But most people don't understand that your credit score is also instrumental in determining how much homeowners insurance, what your homeowners insurance cost is going to be, and what your car insurance cost is going to be. I can't count the number of times, because we do car insurance as well. We're helping people do their car insurance. They're like, why is yours so much lower than mine? We got the same car. First of all, I have no outstanding debt. And I have a good driving record, but also I have a higher credit score. So those things together will make a difference of how much it costs you to buy something. Now, I hate this slide at this point because they say whether you're approved to rent a house, how about whether you're approved to buy a house? Because I talk about buying a lot more than I want to talk to people about renting. Let's show you what it looks like when you're understanding how you don't make mistakes about credit. First of all, people that make mistakes about credit, the very first mistake is not valuing their credit. If you have to use debt, if you're not independently wealthy and you have to use that, understanding your credit score and valuing it gets you to pay less money on it. Raising the credit card limits. If you have a credit card and you max it out, and then you call them and ask them to raise the limit because you need more money on that card, they'll probably do it for you, but they just charge you a higher rate when they do it. Next, not monitoring your credit history. In my prior life, I was a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department, and I had a detail that I was supervising called the Document Crimes Detail. On that detail, we would investigate fraud, embezzlement, white collar crime, any type of financial crime kind of stuff. Most people don't figure out that they've been a victim of identity theft until they look at their credit history. They're like, hold it, how come this car loan is on here? I ain't buy no car loan. Where's these credit cards from? I didn't do that. I've never even been inside Best Buy. How do I got a Best Buy card? That's when they figure out that they got stuff going on in their credit that they did not know because they're not monitoring their credit.
If
And
they got
also-
a Jimmy Choo card, it wasn't me, I promise.
Yeah, okay. Okay, not monitoring their score, not understanding that that thing changes all the time, and not understanding the interest rates and fees associated with their debt is a big deal. Now, I say this jokingly, but it's the truth. Most of the people that we talk to, most of the people that I get in the door, they will usually know how much they're paying on their car loan. They'll know how much the minimum payment is for their mortgage. They'll know how much the minimum payment is for their credit card. But when I ask them individually, what's the interest rate on each of those things, they give me this look like, why would I know that? And like, because that's really important. Now, let's talk about the things affecting your score when it comes to your credit. First is the average length of time in your credit history on and how much you owe on your credit. Then there's the length of credit history, new credit inquiries, and that's a very small percentage, but the types of credit used as well. All those things together is what makes up what they call your FICO score. That's your Fair Isaac Credit Organization score. They score every person. They give them a amount that they're saying that your score is. Raising your score can reduce the amount that you pay. Let me say that again. Raising your score can reduce the amount that you pay. So understanding and paying stuff on time. Now, this was a shocker to me. When I got involved in business, I did not know this. Not only do you have a pay date, you have a pay time on that date when you're paying off debt. And it's amazing how this works. If you're one of those people, I'm going to give them that money until the last day. Well, if you wait till the last day and they say that by 9 a.m. on this day is due, but the mail doesn't come into that place until 11 that day, you're already late, even though you got it in on the right day. So it's important if you're one of those procrastinating people, those people that wait till the last minute to do something, those people that don't even know nothing about how to be on time, then this is important that you know the pay date and the pay time. And a day early is always better than on the same date because of administrative issues, that kind of thing. Now, the debt information that we just talked about, and we just went over, and that debt stacking program, it's really important if you want to know how to get out of debt and how to obtain loans at the best rates, that kind of thing. One thing that I try to show people when I do a debt stacking program is something that most people just never think of, and I call it their debt freedom date. That's the day that the things that they already have, if they keep doing what they're doing, when everything will be paid off. And then I show them an acceleration program to move that date up, and then to show them how much money they're saving by doing it. But I usually take it one step further. If I can show them that they can save 10 years worth of debt payments, get out of debt and save them $121,000, using that example of $2,700 that they're paying per month. If they then turn around and take that $2,700 per month that they were paying out and put it in an investment account at a particular interest rate, that literally can be $1 million or $2 million more for retirement. Now, who in here thinks you can retire a little better with an extra million or two? See, that's the kind of thinking that we want people to have, because most people are not thinking about the fact that just because you can pay it doesn't mean that you should. Paying more to yourself is better than paying a lot to someone else. Does anybody have any questions about the stuff that we just went over and how this credit stacking thing works, the debt stacking thing, and why interest rate can be your friend or your enemy, depending on if you're using it for you or using it against you? Oh yeah, and that is another one of Albert Einstein's famous quotes. One of his quotes, and I love this quote, it says, compound interest, the people that understand compound interest, they use it for them and they're earning interest. The people that don't understand compound interest are usually paying it. So which person do you want to be? The one paying compound interest or the one earning compound interest? Okay.
Definitely earning, please.
Any questions about what we went over as far as how this debt thing works and how we make that work for us?
And also too, since again, those of you that are joining us that had attended our other sessions, since this is our last session for the Black History Month Economic Empowerment series, does anybody have any questions from any of the previous sessions as well? Oh, and you're welcome, Leah.
Oh, was there a question? I see
No,
something here.
Leah just said thank you.
Chat. Oh, this is helpful. Oh yeah, thank you. Oh, she said she's ready for
She's
the
ready
next
for the
one.
next one.
We did them 4 weeks in a row. This is our last week until we do, I think we're scheduled to do it again in May, 3 months from now,
Yeah.
because we're going to do it quarterly after we did this first month of doing all the ones that we did so far. And if you don't remember which ones we did, I'll put this page up, because the ones that we did, the very first one, we actually just went over interest rates, how it works for you, how it works against you. We went over life insurance. We talked about cash value life insurance versus term life insurance. And really it should be buying term insurance and investing the difference versus cash value life insurance. And then we talked about IRAs last week, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, what the differences are, which one is the best for you. And today was all about this debt thing, because getting out of debt is equivalent to giving yourself a pay raise in whatever income bracket that you're in. So if you can save $2,700 a month that's not going out, if you multiply 2,700 times 12, that's $34,000, about $30,000 that basically is coming in that you get to keep. So we definitely want to make sure that that happens.
Okay, there was a question in the chat, Garen. I'm just asking for clarification. Oh, so the question is how to keep up with the presentation schedule. Is that more of a question for Dr. Harden or Patrick, or just keep an eye on the listserv? Is that right?
Yeah, we publish what we'll do is we'll publish the list via our email listserv and our social media channels as well.
Okay.
And the website too, if that person, if they'll put their email in the chat, we'll make sure they are on our distribution list, our news, news distribution list.
Yeah, just put your name and your actually, I'm gonna put a link in the chat where you can sign yourself up for our listserv.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
That's even better.
And give them the website so they can keep up with things on the website, please, Patrick.
Perfect.
And the last thing is, in case you have questions about stuff that you didn't get, I'm going to make sure that I put my phone number and Ashley's phone number up. I should have put Ashley's number first, so that if you need something, that you can always call Ashley right away. But there's my number and there's Ashley's number. And yes, we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have that we can answer. If we got a question that we can't answer, we'll probably be able to direct you where you can.
Or we'll just make it up. I'm totally kidding. We won't make up an answer. We'll direct you to someone who knows the answer. And also too, keep in mind that, thank you, Leah, for the giving your consent to your sibling. So from what Leah said in the chat, keep in mind that Garen and I either are or can be licensed in every state throughout the country and in Canada. So, and we speak multiple languages, parlez-vous français. Garen speaks Spanish. So if you know people in other states, families, friends, community members, we also do other community type presentations such as this. So if you like your churches, or if you're affiliated with other organizations and you attended some of the other sessions or whatnot, and you say, hey, this organization really needs to know about life insurance, or this one really needs to know about savings, or whatever it is, definitely reach out to us and let us know. And like I said, we can be like, we're already licensed in what, 15 states, something like that. So
Yes, I have 16.
oh, okay. Well, excuse me. So so altogether, between the both of us, we're licensed in almost half the states throughout the country.
Yes.
So wherever you have family, especially if you know people on the East Coast or in Texas that are like freezing right now, might need to save for their utility bills, that kind of thing. Feel free to reach out to them or give us their contact information, and we can reach out to them as well. So,
I have a question.
Yes, Ms.
Guys,
Debbie.
I want, I was just ending up another meeting, so it took me a while to get over to this meeting. But for those who are on the line, I would just like to say thank you very much for joining. My name is Karen Harden. I'm the president of the Maricopa County branch NAACP. I would strongly encourage, please watch our website, maricopa.naacp.org. And some of you might be questioning, well, why are they talking about money? Why are they doing this, right? And some of you that know about the NAACP, you might be questioning, why are they talking about finances? Well, we are doing this because economic empowerment is one of our standing, it's called our standing committees. It's part of the mission and the goal of the NAACP. Further, if you think about it, when everybody thinks about 2020, the year 2020, often you hear them talk about there were two pandemics, the COVID pandemic, and then there's the racial unrest pandemic, right? Okay, but then you think a little bit deeper. People of color suffer because they are not not all the time, but a lot of the problems that people of color have is based on the fact that they are not financially stable, right? So that is part of why we will be continuing these financial literacy workshops, because it falls under our economic empowerment objective. And when you think about it, if you have good economics, you can afford healthcare. If you can afford healthcare, you're less likely to be sick. Because you can do the preventative medicine. You don't have to wait until you're really sick and then have to go to the emergency. So it all ties together with this ideal of also self-advocacy, working in your own self-agency. Deny yourself those red bottoms if you can't afford them. Now, if you can afford them, that's okay. Or if you can afford them, that's good. But if you have to pay a high interest rate for them, think secondly, because is your health worth it? And like we all know, the numbers of people of color who are dying from COVID at a much higher percentage than other people, some of that might have to do with this financial problem. They may not have had the luxury of buying the, extra $10 to buy a bottle of, what am I taking? Zinc and vitamin D and the different vitamins that could have kept them healthy. So thank you, thank you to those who are here on the call, and spread the word. I mean, we can empower ourselves by taking care of our finances. Garen and Ashley both are members of the Maricopa County Branch NACP. I thank you guys for being on the line. If you like what you heard, tell a friend. And if there's ways that we can improve, put it in the chat and tell us, okay? Tell us how we can improve, because we want to keep doing this. And I'll turn it back over to Garen, who is the chair of our Economic Empowerment Committee. Thank you so much for taking time today.
Well, real quick, I think Debbie had a question, so definitely want to address that.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for the webinar workshop. But I wanted
Wait,
to know.
Debbie, did you park? Are you parked? We want to make sure you're not driving. Okay.
Still got her seatbelt on.
Right.
Oh, because I have to, when I just pulled over, but I have to find a parking.
Okay.
So so I have family members either not working, retired. How does this help, like to pay off debt as they struggle through? If you're on a limited income or no income, how can the rule of what you showed us help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And both myself and Garen, we actually recruit and train individuals on how to get extra income, so that way they can pay off debt faster and just put those put those funds towards areas where they aren't, I don't want to say the word struggling, but where they can be in an improved situation. So we can either look at their current situation, because a lot of times it is, Debbie, one of those situations where it's that mindset or that thought process of, oh, I just don't have enough money to save, or I don't have enough money to do anything with, until we do that budget and we look down and we see, okay, well, actually you're spending a little extra money here. Like, why are you paying for 800 channels of cable when all you do is watch Netflix, right? So let's take that out. Again, going back to the grocery shopping, why are you buying the Kellogg's brand when you can buy the store-bought brand? So looking at their budget initially, and then also to looking at other ways in which they can increase their income as well.
Will they be charged?
If somebody's older and on a fixed income, it's even more important, if they have debt issues, to put that debt stacking thing in place so that they can pay their debt off as efficiently as possible, and show them a way that they can save some money somewhere so that they don't accrue those debts again. Because it's a big stressor on people that have fixed incomes when any emergency comes on and they don't have cash for it. Anything that happens that's outside, now they're getting back in debt or deeper in debt because they didn't have the cash in the first place. So one of the ways I like to explain it to people is that the first thing we want to do is stop the bleeding. Once we want to stop the bleeding, then we want to repair the body, repair whatever is broken. So you have to take a two-step approach to that. So, and definitely with older people, it's even more important.
Thank you.
Great question. Awesome. And then I do want to address
Also-
Leah put in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just add to that. When you mentioned, Miss Debbie, you mentioned maybe folks who are unemployed and things of that nature, and who are struggling. So yes, contacting us, because we try to help people holistically, which with whatever kind of issues they have, to the best of our ability.
Thank you.
And Leah put a very important statement in the chat, where she said that I'm really smart and these methods seem so easy to employ. It's just no one ever told me how. I didn't have the resources to education that others do, and she's 36. So Leah, thank you so much for making that statement, because yes, these methods are really easy. And that's why we are doing the NAACP and why we're trying to have these conversations and have these presentations, because it is one of those things where the resources aren't readily available to most people of color. These conversations aren't typically had with families and communities of color. So that's why we're doing these and trying to do them more often. So that way, it becomes more of a casual conversation rather than an aha moment, right? So we definitely want it to be like, oh yeah, I know what a Roth IRA is. Yeah, I have so-and-so and doing this and doing that, rather than the, I never heard of that. Where do you even do that, right? So we want these types of conversations to be more frequent and it's more relevant rather than the, yeah, I never knew. So I appreciate that comment, because that is definitely our goal, is to make people more financially literate, because banks and insurance companies are definitely taking advantage of our illiteracy when it comes to this information. So
I'd like to say something if I could.
yes, of course.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Dr. Johnson.
I really appreciate this, because I want to say something that I'm almost a little embarrassed to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I feel like I'm in safe company. One of the things that I've learned, and I'm one of Ashley's students, is that I think in the Black community, and I'm kind of making a general statement, but maybe I should just kind of stick to talk about myself. There was a lot of shame growing up around not having financial literacy in my family. I was not taught about money by my parents. Money was always a source of conflict for them. So there were never any open and honest kinds of conversations about money. My parents separated when I was very young, and all I saw with my mother and money was struggle. She struggled and she struggled and she struggled. She did the best she could, to rear us. But the conflict that she and my father consistently had around money was something that I saw, which I have come to understand as a complete grown-up now, is that what that engendered in me was a fear about money. And being literate about money, because if people always fought over money, what is it about this money? What's that cliche? Money is the root of all evil, and that was kind of ingrained, for a long time in me. But then I woke up one day and grew up and said, Patricia, you're going to have to get with this thing, and with all the other education that I've had in my life, money was not an area of education for me until very recently. So, I just would like to hear some comments, specific, particularly from Gary, anybody who wants to comment. But, have you found that to be, kind of one of those silent, muted issues in the Black community? There's all this shame around money. So,
Okay. It's amazing that you say that. But I tell people, I've been in this business now for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get started until I was 39 years old. And I didn't know the difference between a mutual fund and a mutual friend. It was not part of our conversation. I heard something with what a pastor said this one time that got my attention, because I think it's so true. It says, in a good Christian home, there's two things you don't talk about. That's sex and money. Therefore, we usually have too many kids, not enough money. So I was like, oh my goodness. So as I started learning this stuff, when I first started learning this business, it was not for me to do it. I just wanted an education for myself. But as I started learning it, I realized that I wasn't alone, that everybody didn't know it, and that most people, no one talked to them about it. And the only people that were talking to people about it was the people that were looking to abuse our illiteracy. Still, 80% of people in America today, that it's a higher percentage for Black people, if they have any form of life insurance, it's the cash value kind, the kind that they think is going to be a savings account for them, but really the insurance company's just ripping them off. And 80% of people in general still save their money at a bank at less than 1% interest. And they can't figure out that if their money is not working for them, it's actually working for somebody else. And we have no problem putting $10,000 in a savings account and then having at 0.01 that we're earning, and then we got 10,000 in different credit cards and we're paying an average of 17%. So we're paying out at 17%, we're earning at 0.01, and we can't figure out why we losing. And it's happening generation after generation because we don't know. And if we don't know, we can't teach our children. And that's one of the things that why we're doing this is that we want to make sure that more people are financially literate so that they can teach other people, and especially our families, because our families, man, they need us more now than ever before. It's really a big deal. And this pandemic brought to light a whole bunch of things that people don't understand. And if you're an affluent person, this pandemic didn't affect you financially as well as people that are in the lower third of the social economic structure. So it's separating people. And financial education is one of the ways that we can level the playing field, because a dollar is not white or black or Mexican, it's just green. And we can use it. And the more we learn about it, the more we can have it working for us instead of us always slaving for it. And it's one of my cliches I say, too many people work for their money. Not enough people know how to get their money working for them. So that's our goal, is to teach people how to get money working for them.
And I think, I like what Dr. J was talking about, because if, you know, like a broad statement about our culture, about people of color, you know, Native Americans, African Americans,
Right.
mainly people of color, and sort of low income folks, right? Especially African Americans. I speak on that. Meaning, what I mean is, like, most families, like you said, they were embarrassed about their jobs and how they had to struggle to make ends meet. So they didn't talk about money. And that's why it's very important. And it's probably still happening today, because we are products of our environment. So the generations now, even they might be doing a little bit better, they're still not teaching their kids
That's right.
about how to do their, you know, how to make their money work for them, which is my point. Is it is very important for us to be talking to teenagers, right? We need the kids who have their first jobs on the phone, you know, on these calls as well. If they just now have their first, whatever their first job is, getting them on this call so that they know, you know, go to the bank first and then go spend, you know, put a little bit back. Well, I said bank, but I really mean invest, right? Put enough in the bank until you get enough that you can take out your investment. Or rather than buying the newest Air Jordan, whoever's the famous tennis shoe is now, right? Rather than buying a new version of the Air Jordan, take that $200, whatever it costs, and buy a piece of stock. Go buy, yeah. So it's important for us to be talking to the younger generation so that they have time to make their money work for them. Yeah. So it's great comment.
Did you say that, Dr. Harden? Just yesterday, I set up a Roth IRA for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
A 16-year-old.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the daughter of one of my current clients, and
Correct.
mom told her that if I'd have started this at your age, I wouldn't have to still be working now.
Exactly.
And wow, that's just like a big deal.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know we're a little bit past 12:30, so anyone who does have to take off, thank you for attending again. Thank you, NAACP, for allowing us to have these open and free conversations. But definitely myself and Garen will stick around for a little bit. So if you have any individual questions, feel free to stay on, ask us, as well as Garen had posted our phone numbers earlier. So if you have a question that's maybe a little bit more private, feel free to text us, call us, reach out to us that way as well. So, but again, thank you so much for joining us.
Good. Thank you very much. I like that t-shirt, Garen.
yeah, I thought it was a special t-shirt. I like it too.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
We with it.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to go to another meeting. So thanks very much, you two.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you all.
All righty.
Thank you, everybody.
Au revoir, mon ami.
Au revoir.
Okay. I'm signing out because I got another meeting I'm getting ready for as well, Ashley.
Okay, that's fine. I can stick around for a little bit.
Okay, Ashley, I'm gonna make you the host because I gotta hop over to the other one too. So.
Perfect. Sounds good. Awesome.
Okay, see y'all.
Bye, Moy. All right, Debbie, drive safe. Alright. Great. Leah, do you have any other additional any other questions? Oh, I know you put in the chat something about stocks and cryptocurrency. Did you want to schedule an appointment you're good? Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, reach out to me, send me a text, give me a call if you have any other questions. You are, am I what? Sorry, I don't understand that question. Oh, my phone number. Yep, you got it. Here we go. Oh, Garen had posted it earlier, but he took the screen down. But there you go. So yeah, feel free to text me or call me with any questions, okay? Awesome. You do the same. Thanks for joining.